Gibbous, a Cthulhu Adventure. This game, it just made me laugh the first time I even saw an advertisement for it. It was released in 2019, and some of the promo ads did show that the Necronomicon, the most evil book in the world, has somehow been infused into my cat. And that's just as humorous a start as anything I've ever heard. Which makes this a treat because it is a humorous Lovecraftian adventure. And they go all out with it. I mean, most made up locations are parodies of Lovecraftian locations. Uh, Opening in the city of Darkham, obviously a pun on Arkham, and part of it you go to Fishmouth, which is a parody of Innsmouth. It is quite the unusual and fun game. And part of my love for this game is just that one of your characters is a talking, snarky cat known as Kitty. You also have your lead characters, Buzz Kerwin, who is of Transylvanian descent, and Don Archetype, a private detective. I swear his name is literally a pun. Archetype. And it starts with you playing Don Archetype, searching for the Necronomicon. I will also admit that, just prior to you going for that, you get some nice humorous cut scenes to begin with. I mean, we're having a cult that will bring about the end of the world, and so what is one, he's already yelling at the others for staying off their damn phones. Which just adds to the humor of it. I love it. It's obviously supposed to be set in modern day. But all the crazy offbeat humor that they throw into the game adds to it in such a beautiful way. And the search for the Necronomicon ends up turning this into one of the most humorous quests to save the world that I have ever seen. Where you are trying to stop a mysterious figure known as the Butcher. But the Butcher is also working on things to bring about what he means to bring about. That's what you're trying to stop, and he's doing what he can to get himself into position. And as you work your way through the game, you have to solve some pretty weird problems and pretty humorous problems. And there's some crazy logic in the game, but it's actually kind of sound. It's designed so you shouldn't necessarily have to look up much. It also has some very humorous achievements like an OCD detective, right? You can get right in the beginning of the game by checking every freaking book and working through all these books that uh, remind you of the series of books by Sue Grafton. If you don't, I mean, you should know which ones I'm talking about. The ones that starts with like A, like that goes A is for alibi, B is for, that kind of series. And there are some pretty humorous solutions to some of these puzzles that you have to maneuver around. And it does have several references to some of Lovecraft's works. A slight reference to the thing on the doorstep. As you hear, in order to leave Darkham, you need to figure a way to get the cabbie's cousin safe, as he somehow got married to this woman from Fishmouth. Throughout the course of events, you will have some puzzles that'll make you wonder how to get through them, and eventually get through them. You will have snarky comments from Kidday. If you use the Haunter's Mark, something you gain in the course of event on various things, you get to hear some very humorous dialogue. Which just adds to it. And it gets rather funny as the game progresses. At one point, Don is being held at gunpoint by one of the cultists. Of course, they are having, he's come, you gotta do things proper, and Don's like, I can appreciate that. Of course, having to wait for that before he knows what he has to do gives you time to figure out how to get out of there. And I kid you not, some of it is just downright insane. You have to restore the internet in Transylvania, which means getting rid of an internet block, some sort of signal blocker. Of course, the trick is to get up there. I figured that one out, parts of that one out before I even did it, before I even knew what I had to do. You gotta love the snarky attitude that the cat has. I mean, she doesn't want to be talking. And she wants to be returned to normal. And you have to convince her to be helpful because, let's face it, she's a cat. She don't care. Not that I love cats. I love cats. That's another reason why I had to get this game. I mean, the way she's even snarky to Buzz, it's funny. And there are a lot of very, very humorous nods in it. Uh, turning, say, they got a Zadok from the Shadow over Innsmouth in it. It doesn't touch alcohol. So you have to trick him. He drinks alcohol. He won't touch coffee, so you got to trick him into drinking coffee. He won't trust it unless it's in a bottle. And once you, there's a radio. You can actually listen to the radio in the inn in Transylvania. You get an achievement for that. You have to help a coachman with his love life, or find out why, which is also humorous. Because, it's so funny. Some of the things you have to do in this game and the odd humor that they put in it. It's almost like you want to take it it's trying not to even take itself seriously, which I think is another of the pluses in this game. And you go all over, well, somewhat all over. Uh, and I'm still trying to figure out, why is Don going around? They keep coming up with excuses for Don to be walking around without shoes. I mean, seriously. Eventually, even going some places, he goes to Paris. I left my shoes in the cab. I'm like, what the hell? And figuring out some of the solutions is just sweet. Sometimes you have to do something else before you can get the solution you need, which makes it a very typical point and click adventure. I mean, Don goes to Paris, Buzz goes to Transylvania. If you do things right, I think you could find out a little bit more about Buzz's past. I didn't, or his family's past. And it's such a good game. And your end game takes place at Point Nemo. If you don't know what Point Nemo is, that is the point in the Pacific Ocean that is, and actually it is, out of all points on the globe, Point Nemo is actually the one furthest from any land mass. Any. It's in the Pacific Ocean. And ironically enough, the coordinates given for relay in Lovecraft's lore is actually very close to Point Nemo. And so everything weird is happening there. Shifting reality. I mean, Buzz goes through you go through cycles of change with Buzz as he's making his way through there, where he looks like himself, then looks like an cosmic horror type thing, then looks like a piece of artwork, classical artwork, and then he's all pixelated. And this plays into things, how to get through. You could do the same to Kitty, which also affects things like what you can do to move on, I think. I didn't try doing things any differently with that one. And in the end, you have a final fight. The Butcher is going to, quote, take over the world, gain all this power, with the use of a fake Cthulhu. And if you do things right, the final battle gives you a fight between the real one and this fake one. And I'm not going to tell you what this fake one looks like, because that's part of the humor. You got to see that one for yourself. Or watch my playthrough. And then you have an equally humorous ending, which I'm not going to go into because it will spoil things. Although I suppose it can be hinted that there is another game set in the same universe in production. And it is, from what I've read, the whole group of games are going to be set in the Kittyverse, which, that makes me laugh. This game was great. This game was fun. I enjoyed it. And you don't necessarily have to have an offbeat sense of humor to enjoy the jokes in this game. Because some of them are just typical reactions to things, and others are just, if you know the lore, it helps you understand if you understand some of the lore, but you don't need to know it all to get all the jokes and to laugh at the moments. I mean, Buzz has to, in order to get questions answered, he has to drink this drink, which is heavily alcoholic and hits you like a ton of bricks. And it's like, drink, blah, 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 which means you're not used to it. So you have to find a way, learn how to get past that and everything else. And you've got some pretty amazing characters in this that were so humorous and laughable. And Don scoring a date during his infiltration into Fishmouth, finding out that little girl, Priscilla, that you meet as Buzz, can be a regular badass when it comes to protecting the fishies. And running into all these characters that you run across, it's it's a fun game. This is a game you really have to play because of its offbeat, humorous nature. And that's all I'm going to say about Gibbous. Like I said, it's a great game. It's a fun experience. It's enough to make you smile and laugh. I invite you to watch my playthrough. I don't get every achievement under the sun, but I do get a nice set of achievements in the game. It's worth playing. Just for how offbeat humor it is. And you can find it on like GOG, you can find it on Steam. I recommend, and if you want, watch the playthrough. You can watch the playthrough and watch how I struggle through some parts. And yes, I got screwed up on one that I actually had to look up the answer to. And I smacked myself afterwards. But please, get the game, play it for yourself. It's great. And I hope you've enjoyed hearing me talk about this game. Give a like, subscribe to the channel, I greatly appreciate it, and check out the other stuff I have on the channel. As for now, this is Rich Kale here on YouTube, Rich Gen X elsewhere. Bye!